Hey traders, Raghee here. I'll tell you one thing I don't typically like to do in the current market, and that is buy puts. Even when I'm day trading, I like the long side, and I share this with you because we all carry some inherent biases in terms of direction. Perma bulls, perma bears. We're going to fall somewhere in between that line, and I'll fully own I like to be long. It seems to be, in terms of psychology, the most identifiable and oftentimes the most predictable direction. That said, so yesterday I set up a put just before 10:30, and you can see here at 10:26 we were looking for a setup to get long September 25 594 put. So you might say, Rog, I see this QQQ setup, but you've got the NQ on the chart. What gives? If I'm going to trade the QQQ, I'm going to watch the NQ. Just like, by the way, if I'm going to trade the SPY or even the SPX, the way that I'm going to track that is through the ES futures. And by the way, if you're into SPX trading, you're definitely going to want to check out a video that I'll be releasing probably this weekend. And I'll be doing this over the next couple of weeks. And I'll actually share a 6-part series on exactly how and what indicators that I use to trade the SPX. And it's all rooted in the ES, because think of it this way. This trades about 23 hours a day. These things trade about 6.5, right? So this is a more complete view of what's happening in terms of the S&P or even the NASDAQ in the case of the QQQ. So back to our trade. Here's what we ended up doing. And today I'm going to show it to you in a different way. I'm going to show it to you from a risk perspective. So one of the things that I recommend to our traders when they're managing a trade, once it's triggered, and now the idea is to manage the thing that we have, the thing that I like to recommend is chart the option. So here is the QQQ September 25 594 put. And all I've done is from the Thinkorswim platform, you can copy the symbol of the option and then chart it. So it's got the same indicators, everything. So you'll notice we did this around 10:30. You see here 10:26, getting the fill. And we had a little bit of movement to the upside. And a lot of traders will take a 25% premium gain on that. But really our target was a good bit higher, or I should say a good bit lower. It's a good bit further away, or a higher option value. And then price actually on the NQ, remember we have puts, started to go up. So the QQQ put started to lose value, right? You can see here exactly what happened. So a quick move to the upside, maybe about, I think at this point, this moved from about $1.50 and change to, you can see here, the high was at 221. Now, as a general rule, if you can get out of a trade at an initial 25% gain, I don't have a problem with that. In fact, we do that quite regularly with our swing trades and our day trades. But the challenge here is what happens when that $1.50 turns into losing 25%, or that $1.50. Let's do the math together. Not that anyone needs the calculator to do this, but it just is a really good practice. What I like to do is keep this thing called the sticky calc up on the screen. And what I like to do is multiply out not only the 25% gain, right, but also the 25% loss. And in this case, you can see that once it hit $1.14, which it went to and below, I've got to cut the trade. Really that simple. And if there are situations where I want an even tighter stop, I might even risk 15 cents on the dollar and not 25. But you can see here, ultimately, and this is where yesterday was just such a kick in the pants, we had a quick 25% gain here. You can move to break even. So once the trade goes to about $1.48 or $148, that's the break even and you're out. Not being able to withstand this risk, obviously. I look at the trade, and here's where sometimes we just have to accept that sometimes the journey to profitability is going to be a short one. And even though I had grand ambitions of a far better trade, I took, once it takes too much heat, I'm going to cut the trade. So a lot of you might say, well, Rog, why not sit through that and risk all $153? Well, if I'm going to risk all $153, I've got to think about my account size. And I've got to think about what kind of percentage loss, whatever number of options I bought represents. Because for a lot of traders, they'll often risk 10, 12, 15% of their account, which I would never recommend. So here's a great example of sticking with the process. The idea was to buy puts and buy puts alone. It was never, oh, we should get long calls, ever. The journey to the target was untenable. Mild winner if you took the 25%, which is always an optional target in the Sector Secrets Mastery. And then, I actually do take a lot of solace in this, saying, you know what, Rog, stick with the process, because you weren't buying calls, you didn't flail, you didn't do anything stupid, but it ultimately did do what you wanted to do. So stick with the process, take the gains when you can, move to break even when you should, and then sometimes it's going to move on without you. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Not everybody's going to catch every move. And that's really why I wanted to share this video. Should this been a huge, 250%, 225% winner yesterday? Absolutely. Instead, it was a 25%, right? I didn't add, I didn't flail. I just followed my process, knowing that if this is going to happen 10 times, yeah, I'll catch it 7 out of 10. I'll catch it 6 out of 10. And that's okay with me. So sometimes you just have to accept the journey to the target is untenable. That's how we keep from blowing up. And if you don't know about blowing up, I've never blown up an account, because these are the kind of rules around discipline that I practice. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching these recaps. If you have some specific questions about indicators, let me know. I can break down and do an indicator video. In fact, right now on the channel, you'll see there's a video I share about the top 3 indicators that all day traders, at least in my room, use. All right. Thanks so much for watching.